So you get back into the Pentagon and you're working as the chief of staff for Pete's right-hand man, his deputy. And you're dealing with all this cast of characters that I mentioned. And at least Darren and Dan are both close to Pete. But you didn't know Pete.
No. So if you think, I volunteered to go back, and then I volunteered to be the deputy chief of staff. I was supposed to do a different role. I volunteered to come in the very beginning and kind of set the foundation for him to join and then get him going. And then he asked me to stay. So I said, I will stay for a couple of years.
He meaning Pete or Steve Feinberg?
Steve Feinberg.
Okay.
The other guys were actually called by the secretary and said, hey, please come join me in the administration. I cannot be successful without you. So different story. They upended their lives to come as well, but I volunteered. I was not a phone call saying, Colin, we really need you to come. I just really wanted to come back.
And let's just set the stage on ideology. I listened to Dan Caldwell on Tucker. He's, I think, very much aligned with Tucker's view of foreign policy, more dovish, less hawkish, very anti-neocon.
Right.
Both having come to that organically over the years, but Dan actually fought. It was, as a soldier, and so,
right.
has a personally very committed view towards it. And you're in that camp yourself or no?
Well, I can tell you, having been in a war for something like 2.5 years of my life total, I am not a fan of going to places that I think we have no real policy objective, and then our military officers are not really understanding like the strategy to win. We don't even know what winning is. But I'm not a policy person, quite frankly. I was brought in to buy the right thing at the right cost, which is a completely different problem that the department has, and that is a really intangible problem that we're trying to fix, or intractable problem, I should say. That's me. I think Darren was brought in very much on the workforce side and the military health side to try and rectify some of the problems there. And Dan is a policy ops person. So his role was EUCOM policy, so Europe, and CENTCOM policy, so the Middle East. That's what he focused on.
Mm-hmm. You know that Dan alleged that he's not a leaker. He leaked nothing, and that it's possible he was fired for his ideology, in particular his position that we should not be getting into a war with Iran. What do you think of that?
I think I watched that. I think that maybe Tucker was had an angle there. And honestly, when we were fired, I don't think none of us knew exactly what was going on. So when he filmed that, I think it was still very nebulous as to why we were fired.
You and I are talking on Friday. It's been a week since your firing.
Right.
He interviewed with Tucker. It came out, I think, Monday morning. So
correct.
Yeah.
So he probably interviewed over the weekend.
Yeah.
I think that since then, we've learned a lot more. And that's from, friends in the White House, friends in the building, the Air Force OSI investigators I talked to, the media blitz of people that have called us saying, hey, here's what the White House, or here's what the Department of Defense is leaking about you right now. Can you comment on it? And so I think we have a better, and then honestly, Joe Kasper did a on-the-record interview with DropSite.
Joe Kasper, just for the record again, is the chief of staff to Pete Hegseth,
Correct.
Or was up until a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And has been moved out of that position in this same time period, and has been sort of, I don't know if we'd call it a demotion, but he was a staffer and has been changed into a special government employee, which
Correct.
is
Yeah.
different and less scrutinized position.
The way to look at this is you have political appointees, i.e. people that were vetted by the White House and were appointed. Some of them are Senate confirmed. Others are like me. I was just a political appointee. Joe was a political appointee as well. He is no longer a political appointee. So he is no longer a part of the Trump administration. He is basically a part-time employee.
Like Elon. He's got sort of the same role.
Same exact hiring mechanism. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same thing, because sometimes you can be part-time, sometimes you could be full-time for a certain period of time. I think Elon was like full-time for a certain period of time. I'm not 100% sure what Joe's status is.
Why would they move somebody who's a political appointee over to the position of special government employee?
My understanding is that there was a meeting in the White House last week, maybe Thursday or Friday morning, that was kind of hey, how do we do damage control on the own goal that we created here? And out of that meeting, there were two kind of outcomes. One was what to do with Joe, and one was what to do with the three of us. And this is from people I've talked to that were not in the meeting but got the debrief after the meeting. The secretary was told basically Joe needs to move out of the role of chief of staff. I'm not sure it was related to the investigation, the actions of last week, or if it was just Joe was not the best chief of staff and they were kind of frustrated with him. And we can talk about why. But he was basically told move him and kind of do it in a quiet way. And then that turned into, that wasn't that quiet because somebody leaked it out of the White House or wherever. And then it was in the press. That same meeting, they looked at what to do with the three of us. And my understanding is there were some parts of the White House that were very supportive of retaining us and bringing us back. And then, there was some evidence that was...
He's doing air quotes for the listening audience.
There's some evidence of that was told that may or may not exist. And because people said, hey, there's evidence here. And I was also told that someone said that we failed polygraphs. The Presidential Personnel Office decided get rid of them.
On leaking.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So let's go back now and set that up. So you're running along. Things are going, I guess, okay. But before this whole dust up started, which really started at the beginning of April, I think, like you get this phone call from this political reporter. But prior to that April 2nd phone call, how is the office operating?
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand the dynamic between the secretary's office and the deputy's office and like what I'll call traditional administration, which I don't think is always the right answer, but traditionally how it is the secretary's chief of staff and the deputy's chief of staff have a very close relationship, talk to each other 10, 20 times a day, and are ensuring that what the president wants from the White House is what the secretary's vision is, and then the deputy's, delivering those results. The key thing there being taking words and memos and then making them reality. I was brought in because, quite frankly, like the one thing I'm really good at is making shit happen. That's what people pay me to do, and I'm very, very good at it. I'm not the best chief of staff. I'm learning too, but I know how to take words and build a team and make it reality. The secretary's office really struggled with the word team, both internally and then with the deputy's office and then with the rest of the building. That was my observation.
How so?
Well, you said at the beginning here that people are this is a story about personalities and people. Like that's actually 100% accurate. Like most things in life, it's a story about personalities and people. I'm a firm believer in the fact that you need to be able to build a competent team, trust that team. You can have arguments with that team, but then you can go out and grab a beer afterwards and everybody's kind of able to have a relationship. No matter how tense it gets in the office, and this is a super stressful environment, right? You've got something like 200 executive orders in 45 days. We're all running as fast as we can. There's a lot of pressure coming from the White House. There's also just like the daily operational stuff that's happening. And then there's the constant continuous rhythm of things that need to happen to make the department run. Joe was a very non-traditional chief of staff. And he may have been brought in to be that. Maybe nobody knew he was going to be that. I don't know. I didn't make the decision. But working with him was very difficult. And I think there's out there in the press, it's, the White House, other people in the department, it's not just me. I really struggled to get a relationship with the guy. I tried really hard, but I couldn't do it. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to include us in meetings. I don't know if that's his personality, if there's something from his past history that said, like, this is how to do it. But you can't run a 3 million person organization by kind of like having a cabal of 5 people and making decisions, just like shotgunning memos out. That's not how change actually happens. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that we struggled as an administration to really put a functioning team together.
Tariff wars, stubborn inflation, no wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. In volatile markets like the one we have now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, text MK to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped many protect their savings with gold. It took decades to get into the tangled mess that they're trying to unpack now in D.C. How long will it take to get out of it, and what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.